Good morning. My research project and the project I will be presenting on today regards the role of individual power and how that relates to decisions and actions of the International Criminal Court. The larger research puzzle this research aims to address is roughly why the ICC seems to be able to consistently convict rebel leaders like Thomas Lubanga, but often cannot try or even acquit heads of state and other high-profile individuals like Laurent Gbagbo. So, couple key points about the International Criminal Court that will become more relevant as we move forward. The International Criminal Court is the only international criminal court that is fully permanent. It has been in full effect since 2002, as outlined in the Rome Statute, which is the founding document that outlines the structure and purpose of the International Criminal Court. The court has the aim of ending impunity for war crimes, genocide, crimes against humanity, and the crime of aggression. There's much more details to each of these crimes, but these are the only crimes that the court has jurisdiction over. Nations that have signed the Rome Statute and are party to it comprise the only territories that the court has jurisdiction over, meaning that the crimes the court has jurisdiction over must have been committed in these territories that are party to the Rome Statute. And these crimes can only have been committed since about 2002. The court, importantly, can only prosecute individuals. It cannot begin legal proceedings or investigations against administrations, governments, organizations, businesses. It can only bring individuals to trial and attempt to prosecute them. Over its 20 some odd years of functioning in full capacity, it has issued several warrants, but it has really only prosecuted a handful of these individuals. So as for existing literature about the International Criminal Court decision-making processes, political concerns are the biggest group from this literature, as the court only has jurisdiction over the territories belonging to nations that have already signed the Rome Statute. The court is encouraged to give greater importance to the political concerns of nations that are already that have already opted into this membership kind of system within the Rome Statute. Great powers have been demonstrated to have influence over every stage of the investigative process within the ICC. More specifically, they can directly influence the ICC due to their great power on an international scale, or indirectly by encouraging nations that are already member states of the Rome Statute to further these great power goals. The United Nations Security Council specifically is made up by great powers such as US, Russia, and China, none of which are parties to the Rome Statute. The UNSC can refer cases to the ICC and therefore has a great deal of power or influence over the ICC despite not having officially opted into the goals or that the ICC officially has. The self-referral process is one of the other methods through which states can refer investigations to the ICC. When this is done, sometimes scholars have posited that is an example of using the ICC as a tool, as is the case in Uganda when the Ugandan government invited the ICC into the nation to investigate rebel groups during a conflict in that nation. And although the Ugandan government itself was accused of committing several crimes, the ICC opted not to officially investigate Uganda government and instead focused only on these rebels. Racial bias is another avenue that many scholars have researched, as the ICC has a large focus on the African continent. Most of its cases have come from sub-Saharan Africa. There is the potential that there is racial bias within an international criminal court for every step of the process, and whether there is or not, many think that this still contributes to a sort of international neo-colonialism. Whether this bias exists or not, it can result in decreased popular support in a certain nation's decreased popular support can mean decreased support from the government and even departures from the Rome Statute, as we've seen with a few nations in Africa. State cooperation is necessary from member states of the Rome Statute, as the ICC has no apparati or bodies that are capable of, for example, fulfilling warrants or gathering evidence in the field. They require state cooperation to accomplish these steps. States can change their level of cooperation in order to provide less evidence or lower evidence quality, drag out the investigative or prosecutorial process, and cooperation can kind of be used as a tool in order to inhibit the actions and decisions, processes of the International Criminal Court. So the two cases that I looked at in my research were that of Thomas Lubanga of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He was a rebel leader in the Northern Democratic Republic of the Congo, and the first person notably convicted by the International Criminal Court. The second case is that of Laurent Gbagbo of Cote d'Ivoire. He was the former head of state, and in 2019 was fully acquitted by the ICC. Looking at the hypotheses, my initial hypotheses were in an analysis of the International Criminal Court cases, a combination of low political status and high state cooperation in the ICC is necessary in order to achieve conviction. The second hypothesis was in a comparison of International Criminal Court cases, low political status of the defendant in conjunction with an equivalent political pressure can cause low state cooperation with the ICC and therefore preclude a conviction from ever being reached. So here's my proposed causal model. The primary independent variable is political status in the individual being tried. This is operationalized as whether they are a member of the ruling party or not. If they are a member of the ruling party, this will in turn result in negligible state cooperation. Negligible state cooperation means the ICC is not able to garner the amount of evidence that is necessary to prove that someone is innocent or guilty, and therefore that in this instance, the prosecutorial outcome will not be a conviction. If a defendant is guilty, of course, and the ICC is able to garner this cooperation, a conviction is possible to be reached. So here's the case comparison table. We do see that Thomas Lubanga and Laurent Gbagbo differ in the primary independent variable of individual political status and the dependent variable of the most recent stage of the case, with one being convicted, one being acquitted. The intervening variable of level of state cooperation, which is influenced by, of course, political status, also differs. But we can see that there is control in both the potentiality of racial bias and political pressure to a certain extent. So as for the data regarding Thomas Lubanga, numerous sources outline how he was a rebel leader. He held some power, however, it was only for a fringe armed group. His party was never in power, and he was never a high-ranking member of the main DRC government. The United Nations Security Council, at numerous junctures, condemned the conflict in the northern Ituri province, and always sided with the primary government and never a rebel group that Thomas Lubanga was affiliated with. Therefore, the UNSC pressure on the ICC was present to a very certain extent, as they would have been in support of the courts pursuing of Thomas Lubanga as a war criminal. As the DRC was a self-referral to the International Criminal Court, this is one instance where, to a certain extent, the ICC may have been used as a tool in order to rid the DRC government of their political rivals, which were the rebels that Thomas Lubanga was a member of. As for Laurent Gbagbo, of course, he was the former president of Cote d'Ivoire, which means he was the head of a ruling party and had a lot of political status and power compared to, of course, Thomas Obonga. The UN Security Council supported his rival candidate during the elections in 2011 and even helped capture Gbagbo at the end of 2011. So there was a very strong pressure on the ICC to go after Gbagbo for crimes during the post-election violence. The Ivorian government did not fully back the new president to a certain extent, so there was low cooperation seen from the Ivorian government during the investigation of Laurent Gbagbo. So again, there's the case comparison results. The asterisk present for Laurent Gbagbo denotes the much higher United Nations Security Council interest in Cote d'Ivoire compared to the conflict in the DRC. So the causal model that posits that individual political status does influence the level of state cooperation seen from states during an investigation, and therefore it influences whether the ICC is able to reach a conviction was more or less supported. This was limited by the difference in the level of United Nations Security Council interest in the two investigations. Also, the fact that it's 2 cases out of several limits its generalizability and reliability in regards to the UNSC action. For further research, as not a great deal of research has been done on the impact of individual factors, further research on that would contribute greatly to the conversation. And this theory in regards to the causal model that is suggested needs a lot more testing for any generalizability to really be established. Cooperation is one of the major points of this research, and while there is a great deal of research on it already, could greatly benefit more from further research on cooperation. As the ICC is only able to prosecute individuals, its ability to do so is one of the most perhaps underlooked topics in research of this sort, as this is the only way that the ICC can actually fight to end impunity and discourage individuals from committing the crimes under its jurisdiction. Thank you.